Alright, so the Troubleshooter is a special kind of legendary weapon. It came with the launch of the Welcome to Pandora Vault Card number 2. And what makes the Troubleshooter so special is that the element of the ammunition you fire will match the weakness of the enemy you are shooting. So against health, it'll deal fire. Against armor, corrosive, you get it. This effect is pretty cool. It's also unique to this weapon. The alternating elements ability is effective and efficient. But as cool as this weapon is with its mechanic and all, it's underwhelming in terms of damage output. It lacks the punch it needs to chew through higher health. And I think part of the reason is that it lacks an inherent element that acts as a damage multiplier. There are a few ways to fix this thing's lack of element and lower base power though. So the idea of this video is to make the Troubleshooter as powerful as possible. The best way that I found to do this is to use it with Amara. We're using the Troubleshooter with the 300% weapon damage after using Face Limb Anointment, the Revolter Shield for its massive damage boost, and the Hyperion Companyman artifact. I figured this out while working on my Lady Thor Amara build, which, if you guys haven't checked that out, please do. It's a fun, elemental themed main build I thought of, and I was gonna include the Troubleshooter in the weapons list of that build, but I decided to give this thing its own video to see how far we can push its damage. The idea of this strategy is to use the Face Limb Anoint to give the Troubleshooter a massive damage boost straight out of the gate, which I think that Anointment is the highest weapon damage boost in the game. I could be wrong about that, but I think it might be. Slap on a Hyperion Companyman artifact and all the extra weapon damage you get from the Berserker class mod, plus the damage boost you get from the Revolter proc, to give the Troubleshooter the highest damage output I could think of, and that covers the low base damage. Add to that Amara's capabilities to give elemental damage to weapons through infusion, forceful expression, and her action skill element, and that covers the Troubleshooter's lack of inherent element. I'd say this is the best way to push the Troubleshooter's damage to the max, all things considered. With Amara's potential to give this thing an inherent element, we're able to make it deal 2 types of elemental damage at a time. One being whatever action skill element you want to use, and the other being whatever matching element the Troubleshooter is currently using against enemy health types. So Amara can deal, let's say, fire damage as her action skill element, plus shock damage from the Troubleshooter against shields. Then deal extra fire damage against flesh once the shields are gone. Amara's action skill element will be putting in a lot of work for this weapon though. I'll show this off in the firing range. I'll also note that these damage numbers will differ depending on Guardian rank and skill investment. So what you see here is just a general approximation of the damage the Troubleshooter can deal. For some reason, the Troubleshooter is firing corrosive against the target dummy, but you can see that when I match Amara's element to the elemental type the Troubleshooter is currently firing, I'm hitting 98 to 100k. When I switch Amara's element to fire, the fire damage tops out at 132k, while the corrosive damage hits for, it looks like, 50 through 51k max. But that's firing its flesh, which deals super effective damage. So let's try shock and see the damage difference. Her shock damage hits 43,000, and the Troubleshooter hits for low 50,000. So it's barely stronger than Amara's element when it's not striking super effective. But that's not really a worry because it almost never happens, seeing as how that's the whole point of this gun in the first place. Here I'm just showing what the Troubleshooter can do on its own terms. Alright, now let's see it with the 300% weapon damage, the Revolter proc, weapon damage from the class mod, and extra fire damage from our grenade. In the 800,000s for fire damage, 520 some thousands for the Revolter shock damage, and 175k for the Troubleshooter's base damage. So yeah, Amara's action skill element and the Face Limb Anoint really helped this thing out. Now let's take this thing to the Maliwan takedown. This is true takedown mode, by the way, to see how the Troubleshooter does against some of the toughest enemies in the game. As you can see, it fares pretty well. And really, it's not bad even against the Spec Ops heavyweights, even when you aren't hitting their weak points. If you're fast enough at eliminating enemies, you can take down several enemies before the 300% weapon damage after using Phase Slam wears off. But yeah, I'd say that's the weakest aspect of using the Troubleshooter this way. The fact that you really need the Phase Slam annoying activated to get the most damage out of this thing. So it does require a lot of upkeep, but when it's going, and it can be pretty powerful. Now let's see how it does against the Kraken. Make sure I switch to Corrosive. Alright, now let's see. Also, take a second to appreciate how much damage I'm taking and how efficiently Amara can tank it. It's kind of ridiculous how much damage these enemies can deal when every single enemy is aiming at one person in true takedown mode. Alright, use Phase Slam again to make sure the annoying is still going. And boom. Dead Kraken. Not too shabby, I think. And yeah, the damage you take here is crazy. And for the final test with Amara, let's go to the Guardian takedown. True takedown, of course. Let's see how it do. I'm gonna go straight for this Mana Core, get Phase Slam up, and I mean, it's not too bad against these guys either. I think the enemies here are tougher than the enemies at the Malawan takedown. At least it certainly feels that way. We've just got to make sure we're keeping up all of our damage procs to get the max damage out of this thing. Now let's see how it does against the Spectres and Wraiths. Make sure I switch to Shock here. Alright, let's see. It's really not too bad. Keep in mind that the Troubleshooter isn't the strongest gun out there, and that these true takedown enemies are some of the strongest in the game. So just imagine what this thing can do against normal enemies anywhere else. But I would end up running out of ammo before I even came close to reaching the end of the takedown, if I were to try soloing this weapon only. But that's not the only way to get the Troubleshooter to fire inherent elemental damage. I also tested it with Moze using the Green Monster class mod. With Moze's fire damage, Corrosive from the Green Monster, and Shock from the Revolter, we can get up to 3 different types of elemental damage, plus whatever type of ammunition the Troubleshooter is firing against enemy health. Oh yeah, I almost forgot that I used the U-Red Anoint with this thing while testing with Moze. So up to 4 different elements, plus the Troubleshooter's damage type. Let's try it against the target dummy. Fire for a little bit to get the Green Monster going. Looks like 100,000 max corrosive, 61k radiation, and a consistent 46k blast damage, plus whatever her fire damage is doing. I see 25k there, 18k, and 99k at the bottom there. It's all over the place. Now with the Revolter proc. We've got 88 through 90,000 shock, 68k consistent radiation, 157k max corrosive in the middle there, 57,000 blast, and anywhere between 20 through 49,000 fire damage. So, not nearly as strong as Amara, but it's still pretty cool nonetheless how many different types of elements you can get this thing to fire. Now let's try a field test. Don't worry, I'm only going to test it against the Maliwan takedown to get a feel for this thing's power with Moze. Keep in mind that I'll probably be going down a lot, since Moze's survivability isn't that great when running URAD without a Bloodletter class mod. But for the purposes of this video, that's fine, really. I'm just trying to showcase the Troubleshooter's true potential with this build. I'm using Iron Bear here with the Bubble Shield to tank just a little bit more damage, and to keep up the Revolter proc more often. Okay, so I guess I'm not going down as much as I thought. And as you can see, the Troubleshooter can be quite powerful with Moze as well. Now against the Kraken. Here I do go down, but that's fine. I'll just do this from my knees. Boom. Now that's a dead Kraken. Yeah, okay, now I'm going down a lot here. Remember how much damage Amara was taking? I'm not going to worry about it too much, and I'm still going to use this footage. The build still works even in Last Stand mode. And there you have it. That's how you push the Troubleshooter's damage to the max with Moze. Alright, for the final test, let's try the Troubleshooter with Zane. I know I said I wanted to give this thing an inherent element, but Zane can do that, right? With his Brain Freeze ability? No, because that's not actually cryo damage, just a freeze effect on critical hits. Whatever, I just want to show the Troubleshooter's power with Zane. Zane's crazy gun and critical damage, amp damage through barrier, and the Revolter proc makes the Troubleshooter quite powerful. On paper, Amara should be dealing more damage with the setup I'm using, but I don't know, guys. All things considered, Zane makes this thing look pretty damn good as well. Maybe not quite as powerful as Amara or Moze once everything is up and running, but the benefit of using with Zane is his crazy survivability, and the fact that it doesn't require nearly as much upkeep to get great damage out of this thing as it does with the other two. Now the Kraken. And boom. There you have it. And that'll about wrap it up for this video. The Troubleshooter is a really fun weapon with a special, unique ability you can't find anywhere else. And while its damage output may leave a lot to be desired on its own, when paired with the right skills and gear, you can get more than expected out of this thing. So, to all the Borderlands 3 fans out there, good luck, Godspeed, and I wish everyone a good day.